She complained about using the bathroom, which was an open sewer drain, rats running around, rotten maggot-infested food.
They say the rat mogul made from behind bars to influence everyone from potential jury to alleged victims.
The courtroom was silent as the judge leaned forward, his expression a mix of disbelief and controlled anger. The gavel slammed against the desk, signaling that what had just been revealed was beyond mere legal misconduct. It was an affront to the justice system itself. "Mr. Combs," the judge began, his voice echoing across the packed room, "this court does not tolerate corruption in any form, let alone an attempt to influence the course of justice through unethical means." The air was thick with tension, reporters scribbling furiously, and cameras clicking as the judge prepared to expose the details of what could be one of the most scandalous moments in celebrity legal history.
Deal that the U.S. Attorney's Office can offer, and it's certainly not one that Diddy will accept. It would involve decades in federal prison. We're talking about mandatory minimum sentences of 10 years for both the charges and the sex trafficking. So we know that Diddy has fought charges before. There were state charges, there were gun-related, the nightclub shooting with J-Lo, but he's going to dig in his heels, and this case is going to trial. So if you're prosecutors, you really want to make sure that your evidence is bulletproof.
Diddy, seated at the defense table in an impeccably tailored suit, shifted uncomfortably as his legal team whispered urgently in his ear. The prosecution had just presented what they claimed was irrefutable evidence, a series of wire transfers and private communications that suggested an attempt to sway judicial proceedings in his favor. The defense attorneys immediately objected, but the judge overruled them, declaring that the evidence would be reviewed in open court. The whispers among the audience grew louder. This was no longer just a high-profile case. It was a potential career-ending revelation.
Suing Jay-Z's attorneys and his company Rock Nation, but not Sean Carter, aka Jay-Z himself. According to the lawsuit, the defendants in this suit are Marcy Bryant Croft, her law firm MJ Legal, Rock Nation, and the law firm who is representing Jay-Z, Quinn Emanuel Urquhart and Sullivan. They allege the defendants conspired to obstruct justice by engaging in shadowy operatives to illegally get more than 24 current and former clients of Busby's law firm to turn around and sue them. The suit claims Rock Nation is financing this alleged effort, while attorneys Marcy Croft and the law firm Quinn Emanuel are orchestrating this whole thing. According to the suit, the defendants' agents were pretending to work for the state of Texas and allegedly flashed fake badges, which the suit says wasn't very smart or careful, but also illegal. The suit states the defendants' agents offered as much as $10 grand to a former client to sue the Busby law firm, but the so-called agents were allegedly caught on audio tape red-handed. The suit claims attorney Marcy Croft, who is a lawyer but also a member of Team Rock, was orchestrating that whole effort. Then in another recording, those agents were describing in great detail the alleged criminal conspiracy. The suit claims they went so far to admit the lawsuits would be reported in the press, and some former clients already accepted.
Legal analysts outside the courthouse wasted no time dissecting the explosive revelation. If these allegations hold up, one expert stated, we could be looking at not just the collapse of Diddy's defense in his ongoing case, but also additional charges for obstruction of justice, bribery, and potential witness tampering. The ramifications of such accusations were staggering. Celebrities had faced lawsuits before, but to be directly accused of attempting to buy a judge's favor was something else entirely. Social media was ablaze with speculation, and legal professionals weighed in on what consequences could be expected.
We made a bail appeal to Judge Carter. It did not go our way. The fight continues. We're not giving up by a long shot. I told Mr. Combs I'm going to try and get his case to trial as quickly as possible. I'm going to try and minimize the amount of time he spends in very, very difficult and I believe inhumane housing conditions in the special housing unit in the Metropolitan Detention Facility. And I'm going to do everything that I can to move his case as quickly as possible. I understand that the government has a great amount of electronic devices that they have to download and provide to me, but everything's on the government's timetable, nothing's on the defendant's timetable, and they're going to have to accommodate me and him, give us a quick trial, and I'm going to be pushing for that. He's ready, he's focused. He has been ready to defend this case since he first found out about this case. Nothing has changed from his perspective. I obviously would much prefer to fight this case with him out of jail, and we are going to try to bring that about through additional legal process. But wherever he is, his resolve is the same. He believes he's innocent. I believe he's innocent. And we're going to fight this case with all of our might until we don't have to fight.
Inside the courtroom, the judge's voice remained steady, but his words cut through the defense's carefully crafted strategy like a knife. "This is not a reality show, Mr. Combs," he stated firmly. "You do not get to manipulate the system like a business transaction." The gravity of the moment was clear. This was not just about Diddy anymore. It was about setting an example, showing that wealth and status did not place anyone above the law. His lawyers tried to intervene, but the judge silenced them with a sharp glare. This was not a debate, it was a reckoning.
Has come out with new evidence of its own to justify pretrial detention. And let me just read you this from the beginning of their brief. They say, while attempting to evade law enforcement monitoring, the defendant has, among other things, orchestrated social media campaigns that are, in his own words, aimed at tainting the jury pool, made efforts to publicly leak materials he views as helpful to his case, and contacted witnesses through third parties because he has already been engaging in obstruction while locked up. They read, government has reviewed dozens of recordings of BOP jail calls in which the defendant uses telephone accounts of at least 8 other inmates, which is against BOP regulations. Seemingly to avoid law enforcement monitoring, the defendant uses other inmates' PAC numbers to make phone calls to both individuals on the defendant's approved contact list, as well as other individuals who are not on the approved contact list. To obtain or maintain access to other inmates' PAC numbers, the defendant directs others to pay the inmates, including through payment processing apps and BOP account deposits. The defendant also frequently instructs individuals whom he contacts by telephone, including family members and his attorneys, to add other individuals via three-way call. This practice is not authorized by BOP as it helps conceal the identities of the contacted individuals. The government has reviewed multiple calls in which the defendant has instructed parties to dial in third parties, including members and associates of the enterprise and individuals who are not on the...
Diddy's legal representative, visibly shaken but composed, took to the stand outside the courtroom to address the media. "My client categorically denies any wrongdoing," he said, reading from a prepared statement. "We are confident that when the full context of these allegations comes to light, it will be clear that no improper actions were taken." But the skepticism in the eyes of reporters was evident. The evidence presented so far was damning, and the damage to Diddy's reputation was already spiraling out of control.
This morning in the sex trafficking case against Sean Diddy Combs, prosecutors now claiming that from behind bars, Combs has been trying to reach out to victims and possible witnesses, and ABC's Phil Lipoff is here now with this story. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning, Gio. Diddy's lawyers trying for a third time to get him out on bail, but this time, the prosecution telling the judge about attempts they say the rap mogul made from behind bars to influence everyone from a potential jury to alleged victims. This morning, prosecutors leveling new accusations against Sean Diddy Combs, saying he poses a serious risk of danger even from behind bars as he awaits trial. In a court filing late Friday, prosecutors detailing the steps they say Combs is taking while locked up to reach out to prospective witnesses and influence public opinion to affect potential jurors.
The accusations within the prosecution's motion to deny bail are very serious and will be considered very heavily by the judge, because the judge is going to want to ensure that he is not influencing witnesses and or contacting anyone to influence a trial in any way.
Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges of racketeering, transportation to engage in prostitution, and sex trafficking. He denies any wrongdoing. The government now asking a judge not to grant Combs' third request for bail, which the music mogul offers a $50 million bail package, citing new evidence.
Meanwhile, the judge addressed the court with a stern warning. This case will proceed under the full scrutiny of the law, and any attempts to interfere further will result in severe repercussions. The tension in the room was palpable. The implications of such a statement were clear. If the allegations were proven true, the fallout would be monumental. The prosecution, sensing the moment's gravity, doubled down on their argument, presenting more details that painted a grim picture of behind-the-scenes dealings.
40 lawsuits deep, a trial that's right around the corner. But one thing maybe Diddy didn't expect was the largest department store in the U.S. calling him an equal opportunity predator. Yup, those exact words. So let me explain. Back in October, a client of Tony Busby filed a lawsuit against Diddy, accusing him of orally raping him in a Macy's stockroom. Now, this alleged attack happened back in 2008. John Doe says at the time he was working for Echo, the rival clothing company to Diddy. Sean John brand. Both of those clothing lines were carried at Macy's. On the day this allegedly happened, John Doe says Diddy entered the stockroom with bodyguards, who were armed by the way. Doe claims one or more of the guards hit him, or he might have been pistol whipped, which caused him to fall to his hands and knees. Now Doe says one or more of Diddy's bodyguards threatened to kill him, but then Diddy demanded he perform oral sex on him. The plaintiff described in his lawsuit the oral went on for about 2 minutes, and after the attack, Diddy grabbed a bunch of Sean John merchandise from the stockroom and began passing it around to a crowd as if nothing happened. So beyond this allegedly happening in Macy's, what does this have to do with the department store? Well, they're named in the lawsuit as a defendant. According to John Doe, 3 weeks later, the CEO of Macy's pressured Echo executives to fire John Doe because he signed a multi-million-dollar deal with Sean John Clothing. Now, John Doe also believes the assault was destroyed or purged from Macy's records and no action was ever taken. So that was laid out in the lawsuit.
As the trial unfolded, it became apparent that this was more than just a legal battle. It was a test of the integrity of the judicial system itself. The defense team, aware of the uphill battle they now faced, scrambled to mitigate the damage. Diddy himself remained stone-faced, but the weight of the accusations was visible in his posture. The case had already shifted public perception, and regardless of the final verdict, the stain on his legacy was becoming increasingly difficult to ignore.
We're going to put together the proposed bail package. A $50 million bond, co-signed by him, his mom, his sister, mother of his oldest daughter, and his 3 adult sons. It's going to be secured by the equity in his property in Miami, Florida. Home detention. His passport will be surrendered. The government said that it's sufficient. They said, look at the charges, look at the weight of the evidence that I just mentioned. They said they have allegations that he and his associates were trying to tamper with witness testimony last year so that they wouldn't cooperate with the government. What do you take away about who has a stronger argument in terms of bail?
Well, I think his counsel has done the best they possibly can. I think bringing him there voluntarily is very smart, starts them out on the right foot. But I think the last thing that you just mentioned, the interfering with witnesses.
That's the allegation, yeah.
Yeah, if that's true, or I should say if there's real addition that happened, I think that might tip the scales in favor of not letting him out pending trial, because I think, and you know this, I think judges take an extraordinarily dim view of that, and that might be the factor that tips the scale against him. But I think as far as a tactic, I think it was very smart.
Why is that not a fair outcome?
What he did here is on a magnitude of unlike anybody else you could imagine. A week after these public searches were televised, he gave us his passport. His children gave us his passport. He then paid off the mortgage entirely on his Miami home, $18 million. It's instructive that he's going to have a bail package ready so that if he was arrested, he would have something ready so that he could get out the next day and show the judge he's taking this very seriously, which he is, which is why 12 days ago, Chris, when we thought there's an indictment that may be coming, he flew to New York the very next day. And that's an extraordinary move for a defendant who's been under investigation that he's been aware of for at least 6 months. He has done everything somebody under investigation can do. I can't think of anything else that he could have done. He's fighting, he's innocent, and he's gonna...
An unexpected twist. A former associate of Diddy came forward with additional claims, alleging that this was not the first time he had attempted to exert undue influence on legal matters. It's always been about power and control, the individual stated. This situation is just bringing it into the public eye. The defense immediately dismissed these allegations as opportunistic, but the timing couldn't have been worse. The court of public opinion was forming its own verdict, and it wasn't favorable.
Diddy Combs reportedly underwent treatment in a hospital as he continues to await trial on sex trafficking charges. According to Page 6, the 55-year-old was transported from Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, the federal prison where he was sent following his September arrest, late January 30th to undergo an MRI and was then soon returned to police custody later that night. The outlet cites a source as saying that the medical scan was authorized because his knee was bothering him. E! News has reached out to reps for Diddy and the Federal Bureau of Prisons for comment and has not heard back. Grammy winner's attorney, Mark Agnifilo, tells TMZ, quote, "I cannot comment on anything related to prisoner movements. Also, I'm not commenting on anything related to possible medical issues." Diddy had shared in a since-deleted Instagram post in 2017 that he had undergone his third knee surgery in a year. The Federal Bureau of Prisons has neither confirmed nor denied the reports about Diddy's hospital visit. A spokesperson for the government agency tells the New York Post, quote, "For privacy, safety, and security reasons, we do not comment."
Getting good reviews. I mean, not that it should, but, it should be basic rights. And this place has faced intense scrutiny amid a spat of vicious inmates, going after each other badly, complaints about dismal living conditions, including maggot-infested food, filthy cells, power outages, apparently they go weeks without any sort of heat, which is, not good, especially as the cold rears its head. These apparent conditions were brought to the spotlight during the trial of Maxwell, I can't say the full thing, the notorious Madame of Jeffy, when her attorney ripped the facility for reprehensible and utterly inappropriate facilities. She complained about using the bathroom, which was an open sewer drain, rats running around, rotten maggot-infested food, freezing temperatures for roughly a week. The electrical fire caused all the light heatings to go out in the building. Apparently, violence plagued federal lockup made headlines when it was hit with the claims that the staff allegedly covered up a night.
Back inside the courtroom, the judge's patience wore thin. "I will not allow this case to be turned into a media circus," he declared. "The law will be upheld, no matter who stands accused." The courtroom buzzed with murmurs as Diddy's defense team requested an adjournment, hoping to regroup. But the damage had already been done. The question now was not just whether he could prove his innocence, but whether he could salvage his public image at all.
Interesting, too, because this time around, Diddy was brought in first. He was brought in about a couple minutes after 2 p.m. today, and we were all kind of waiting to see. We had heard mumblings that his mom might be in courtroom, that we were waiting for the children, but then nothing happened. But then, in another twist and turn, the children do walk in, but this time it was a lot smaller bunch than it was the last time. So last time you were having all of Diddy's children, except with the exception of Love, who is just a 2-year-old child, so she wasn't at court, but you had all of Diddy's children there except Love. But this time around, you just had Justin Combs and Christian Combs, meaning that there was no Quincy there today. Delilah and Jesse weren't there. Chance wasn't there, and the caretakers of his younger children who aren't of age just yet, they were not present inside the courtroom as well today. But his mom also wasn't in court today. So when Diddy came inside, it was still that standard issue NBC jumpsuit. He's wearing khaki. From that video of, I think that was obtained by Daily Mail back in September, of Diddy playing hacky sack in Central Park, to now he appeared just astonishingly thinner, which you can expect to be inside a federal detention center for a couple months now. A lot different from the luxury lifestyle that he was living before, but he appeared very noticeably thinner, and maybe being locked up in detention is starting to wear on him. He appeared grayer a little bit as well too, but again, he appeared just like how you would expect Diddy to appear for a hearing.
According to a report from the Daily Mail, that's why Diddy had a breakdown. A person close to him apparently said, quote, "Spending the holidays behind bars was a nightmare for him." If we're to believe all this, Diddy had a meltdown in his cell and begged the guards to take him to the hospital for observation, but they refused. This same friend or person told the Daily Mail, quote, "He eventually managed to calm himself down with the meditation technique he's been using while he's been behind bars. It took him a few hours of deep breathing and focusing to get out of the bad space he was in, but he finally managed it." This isn't the first time Diddy's mental health has come into question while he's been at MDC. When he first arrived, he was on suicide watch, which the U.S. Department of Justice National Institute of Corrections describes as supervisory precautions taken for suicidal inmates that require frequent observation. Diddy's suicide watch was only temporary, though. He was housed in a special protected unit of the jail after that for the first few weeks of his stay. But Diddy right now is in Gen Pop, meaning general population, the place where majority of the inmates stay. And that's where he apparently had this meltdown over the holidays, at least according.
Legal experts continued their analysis outside, pointing out that the burden of proof for bribery allegations was high but not impossible to meet. If there's a paper trail, if there are credible testimonies, then this could escalate quickly, one expert explained. The potential for additional charges loomed over the case like a storm cloud, making it clear that this was far from over.
At every room
tape and bugs. Diddy had, yo, can you imagine? He had every room taped and bugged, and they found little bugs and little tape recorders. I mean, little those micro projectors or whatever like that, or video cameras. They found them in the house, bro. So by them having those things in the house, and people know there's alcohol, there's loose women, there's loose men, woman on woman, man on man, all kind of crazy shit. Bruh, they just wondering who or when they're gonna let this stuff be known. If it's on videotape.
Yeah, man, I know they gotta be shook, man, after finding out he reported it.
But not only celebrities, I don't think it's only celebrities gonna be shook. He had politicians in there. He had princes in there. He also had a couple of preachers.
Diddy's legal team, understanding the gravity of the situation, shifted gears. Instead of outright denial, they attempted to reframe the narrative, suggesting that what was being interpreted as bribery was nothing more than a misunderstanding. At no point did Mr. Combs attempt to obstruct justice, his lawyer insisted. We will fight these allegations vigorously. But the battle was uphill, and they knew it. Meanwhile, media outlets ran non-stop coverage, discussing the broader implications of the case. Could this set a precedent for how celebrities and the elite were treated in court? Was this a turning point in accountability for high-profile figures? Social media was flooded with debates, with some defending Diddy while others saw it as long-overdue justice catching up with him. As the trial reached its climax, it became evident that this was not just about legal consequences, it was about legacy. The judge, unyielding in his stance, delivered his final remarks before the jury deliberated. No one is above the law, he said, and no amount of influence or money can change that fundamental truth. The courtroom held its breath, waiting for what was to come next. With the final gavel strike, the case took its next step toward resolution. Whatever the jury decided, the spectacle had already left an indelible mark. Diddy's lawyer, in one last attempt to control the damage, issued another statement: "We will explore every legal option available." But for many watching, the real verdict had already been cast in the court of public opinion. The road ahead for Diddy was uncertain, and the consequences of his actions, or alleged actions, were just beginning to unfold.